Everybody's so cool. break and do something a little different.
I know, we have part of Community Action here with you today, so we'll introduce them.
Excellent. Very good. Okay, let's go ahead and get started today. We have a couple of different topics, both of them good news for the community, so it's nice to be doing a press conference on good news and reminding the community about progress being made here and there and everywhere in the city. I know that at the same time that we're giving you good news, you all are holding your breath a little bit for our citizen Sydney Loof, who our law enforcement is currently searching for. I don't have any updates on that this morning other than what you may have read in the paper this morning, but we do hope still that there will be good news there in the end. So with that, let me just start out by thanking everybody for being here this morning. We're going to talk about the city's transportation future in just a few minutes, but first I am delighted to welcome the staff and the board members from Community Action Partnership of Lancaster and Saunders counties. And we're excited to announce that Community Action has been awarded a federal grant of $460,000.
Yes.
Not small potatoes.
No.
No, it's good. And this will make it possible to house 40 homeless families in Lincoln. As you know, Lincoln is consistently recognized as a great place to live. The 2017 Lincoln Vital Signs report highlights many of the positive things in our communities, including the low unemployment rate, the very low unemployment rate, the low crime rates, and the high workforce participation. But we also know that many in our city continue to face real need. Today, 15.9% of Lincoln residents are living in poverty. That's 41,000 members of our communities. And they are us. They are our neighbors, our friends, our co-workers, our children's classmates, the people who service us at local retailers and restaurants. For this segment of the population, keeping up with the cost of living is a struggle. And just one negative life experience, such as a job loss or a major medical bill, puts them at risk of becoming homeless. The Lincoln Homeless Coalition's most recent point-in-time count indicates that there are at least 606 people who are experiencing homelessness in Lancaster County. The point-in-time count found that 153 of those experiencing homelessness are children. Homelessness is devastating, of course, regardless of your age, but for children in particular, its effects can result in serious long-term physical, emotional, and psychological harm. The Continuum of Care Supportive Housing Grant, which is what we're announcing today, is made possible through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Continuum of Care program. Through this grant, families will be connected with a long-term home where hopefully they will be able to build strong relationships with schools, neighbors, and community organizations. So I want to offer my thanks and congratulations to Community Action and to all the folks there who have been doing such a good work, important work for a long time now. They have a strong history of housing homeless families and providing services that are critical to the short-term and the long-term prosperity of our city. So Vice is their dedicated, to say the least, Community Action Executive Director, and she's here this morning to share the details of this little celebration.
Absolutely.
It's all yours.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here this morning. Thank you for joining us for this fun news. Community action empowers people living in poverty to reach economic stability. Our 17 unique programs address the causes and concerns of poverty in 4 impact areas: early childhood development, homelessness prevention, family and financial well-being, and hunger relief. Our work is focused on not only ensuring people living in poverty have their most basic needs met, but also empowering them to utilize their own strengths and abilities to create lasting change. Last year, we provided services to 17,499 people. The housing grant that Mayor Beitler just shared will fund one of Community Action's program, the work that we do to transition families experiencing homelessness into a permanent home. These are families who are living in shelters, living on the street, or fleeing domestic violence. The goal is to move families into a home with the support of the supportive housing program so that within 24 months, they assume total financial responsibility for maintaining that home. Each family creates an individualized plan that reflects their unique needs and interests, and they receive regular visits from the supportive housing program staff. You'll meet them very soon, who meet with them very regularly to help them address their goals, set their goals, and coach them to attain those goals. The support begins with finding and securing that home, and then follows with furnishing those homes. As you can imagine, these are families who have very little. So once the home is secured, then finding the furniture and the household goods to support their living in that home is very necessary. Once settled in the home, the support becomes perhaps a little more strategic, and the kinds of goals that are worked on include learning about and building positive habits relating to financial management, establishing and attaining educational and employment goals, enhancing parenting skills, tenant education, and probably most importantly, that coaching through the ups and downs that come with any significant change. Their support is constant. So I think the exciting news, along with the dollar amount of this grant, is that in the next few months, Community Action will house 40 families, thanks to the support of this funding. The grant, as Mayor Beitler mentioned, is $460,000, and that grant must be leveraged with a local match of 25%. So an additional $115,000. One of the pieces of news that I hope that you will take from our conversation this morning is that Community Action is welcoming financial contributions designated for the purpose of funding this program. And in addition to our need for cash contributions, we're also hoping that our community will think about those extra things they have in their own household that they can donate: towels, pots and pans, dishes, sheets. We would love to talk with the community about how to make those donations. So before we get to addressing, I think, specific questions, I would like to introduce individuals here from Community Action. The president of Community Action's board of directors is Gail Steen. Gail, can you wave? Everybody from Community Action, wave. Heather is our director of development and communication. Michelle Wave is the director of community services. Michelle is administratively responsible for the supportive housing program, and she also manages several other programs that work with homeless and near homeless families. There are 4 distinct employees within the supportive housing program. 3 of them are here this morning. Many of you know of the tremendous work that Lee Heffelbauer, who is the administrator of the supportive housing program has done within our community relating to homelessness. Lee is a past chair of Lincoln's Homeless Coalition, and she is also governor appointed to help the state develop its 10-year plan to address homelessness in the state of Nebraska. So Lee is responsible for managing the program. Lee and Michelle will also be available to answer very specific questions that you might have and to meet with you following the mayor's press conference if you would like to do that. We have 2 family advocates within this program, Heather and Aaliyah. One of them can be here this morning, Aaliyah. They are really the crucial staff in meeting and coaching the family through the 24-year period of change. So they are working with them on those goals that we talked about. And then our last staff member is Angel. Angel is the supportive housing assistant. Angel supports the staff, but she is probably most importantly responsible for making sure that we're collecting the right data and we're maintaining records as we need to do. So thank you very much for your dedication and for jumping in to this program and the very nice challenge of locating and housing 40 families beginning immediately. We want to thank you, Mayor Beitler, for sharing not only your time this morning to join us in this announcement, but also for the tremendous support that you've provided to Community Action. We know that you've also demonstrated a very personal commitment to addressing homelessness in Lincoln, Nebraska. So thank you for that. In addition, the city's Urban Development Department has a long history of working closely with the Lincoln Homeless Coalition and its member agencies like Community Action. And we think because of that close working relationship, the implementation of strategies to address homelessness and really the success in lowering the number of individuals in Lincoln who are homeless has been successful. So thank you to you, and thank you also to the city departments.
Well, Vi, thank you very much, and you stay right up here because you're going to have to answer the tough questions.
Okay, okay, and we'll
I'll take
send
the
a few
easy
of them
ones,
out
you take
here.
the tough
Okay, we can do that.
All right, and the other thing that I neglected to do that I think we really should do is have all of you come up here and just stand behind us as we answer questions, and you guys be sure to ask a question or two because I want their kids and relatives and neighborhood to see them on TV. And get a little come back here where you're kind of background. Yeah. All right. The trailer. All right. Questions? Nancy. Why don't you come over here so you...
I'm going to start with a very general, succinct answer, and then we'll pull Lee in to give you the detail of that. Actually, Community Action has been providing housing services for nearly 20 years, so it's certainly been a vital part of the programming that we've provided. This grant is unique in the sense that it is prioritizing permanent placement of families within homes. Previously, the work that we've done has allowed us to place families temporarily within homes, work with them for a period of time to become stable, and then they leave and find their own home. So I think really the wonderful thing about this grant is that they will be into their home, they will work towards that financial security, and they will be able to stay without moving at the end of that support. Additional information you'd like to?
No, we have had a number of programs over the years. Some of them were federally funded. The federal government is no longer supporting transitional housing programs for this population, best practices is to move to rapid rehousing programs. So we were fortunate that we were able to leverage our resources and develop what we see as the best model for serving families, particularly those who are experiencing domestic violence, who really don't need a lot of time in a transitional model. They need to be able to move into permanent housing as quickly as possible. And the benefits for them are that they can have choice in where they have their apartments. They can find a unit that is close to their employment. They can find a unit that's close to their jobs or close to their support system. So this is really a benefit for them. They're able to develop a home, develop a sense of community, and rebuild their lives as quickly as possible. So we really are excited about this new model. Yes.
And then if people want to donate, is it a telephone number where they can have a conversation about what kinds of things are being used?
Absolutely, and we've placed in your packet, I believe, a copy of that wish list. It's also available on Community Action's website, so they can search for that list on site. And the number that they would call directly to ask questions would be 402-875
9339.
9339. How's that for sharing someone else's phone number?
And is it imperative to have the cash donation?
Well, certainly it's imperative because to be able to draw federal funds, we must demonstrate that we have the local match available to match those funds. We have been supported to some extent in reaching that goal of $115,000. We continue to look for and ask for additional contributions to get us to that total.
Sure. So a couple of months ago, on a citywide level, most of the housing programs that are serving people who are homeless went to what's called a coordinated entry system. So in the past, it used to be that if somebody was experiencing homelessness, they'd go to this agency and put an application in, they'd go to that agency, all over town, and it really was not working very well. So with the coordinated entry process, there's one master list for the city. An individual can go to any of the designated agencies and do an assessment, and they'll be placed on the master list. Then when a homeless program, such as ours, has an opening, we go to the list, and people are referred to us who best meet our program's criteria, as well as who would best benefit from our sort of program. So right now there is a master list, coordinated entry list. There are, I believe, about 300 households on it at any given time right now. So we're pulling people off of the list who fit into sort of the criteria, who would be most successful under our program. There are people who are very high on the list who need really intensive case management services. For example, they may have behavioral health issues, substance abuse, mental health concerns, and would need some more intensive services than what we provide. But we're taking those families that do fit in with those criteria. There's a number of them on there, and so we're pulling them off as fast as we can, getting them processed and having them start looking for apartments so that we can get all of our slots filled as quickly as we can. We already started that. Coordinated entry started on October 1st. Yes, we're really excited. We've already have about 15 families in process. I think we've signed the lease on we're signing the lease for the 4th family today. So we're madly scrambling and calling landlords, and if there are any landlords out there who want to be a part of our program, give us a call. Yes, this grant is specifically for families with children. Our program uses a rental assistance model. So we have an agreement with the landlord that we will provide rent assistance until the family is ready to move over to permanent housing option. Either they can afford it on their own, or they move, for example, to a Section 8 voucher. So it's income-based. the goal of this is that they're not paying more than 30% of their income for housing costs. Many of them are, yes. They're either working or they're looking for work. There's sort of that myth that, somebody who's homeless is sort of the single guy under the bridge without a job, but many of the folks in Lincoln who are experiencing homelessness are working families. They have income, but if you've ever tried to rent an apartment in Lincoln, the rents are higher than you can afford on an entry-level job. So this gives them a boost so that they can get into stable housing. Especially with children, you don't want kids living in, either in a shelter or in their car. You certainly don't want them in substandard housing. You want them in some place where they can grow and thrive. So this allows our participants to move into apartments that are safe and stable.
All right. Well, thank you all very much again for everything that you do and for being right there to pursue some of the very best ideals of our society. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now we move from people who drive on our roads to the roads themselves. And we have a few people from our Public Works Department here today, including most prominently Mickey Esposito, who runs Public Works, and she's going to come up here and she may need to correct a few things that I say. And I certainly want her to help answer questions and make whatever additional remarks she should see fit to make. But our second topic today has to do with a very important stretch of road in the community that opened a month early, as it happens. We're talking about South 14th Street between Old Cheney Road and Highway 2, which was reopened yesterday. The state's concrete and asphalt paving project was the second phase of a larger project involving South 14th and Warlick Boulevard between U.S. Highway 77 and Nebraska Highway 2. The Nebraska Department of Transportation said phases 1 and 2 were completed about 9 months ahead of schedule. Here's why the project is so significant for Lincoln. The state was originally scheduled to improve these roads and relinquish them to the city in the year 2020 for the beginning of the South Beltway project construction. The schedule was moved up to 2018 so that preparations can begin for the project to improve safety and traffic flow at the 14th and Old Cheney intersection. This is the major project that most of you have heard about that features an elevated roundabout over a T intersection. For today, I want to thank the Nebraska Department of Transportation for completing their major project associated with this early. NDOT really did give us a kind of holiday gift with mint condition roads done ahead of schedule. This is another great example of the state and local officials working together to make our community safer and stronger. The streets that were reconstructed by the state will result in improved traffic flow, reduced maintenance costs, and savings in cost and time associated with state right-of-way permitting. The state project will also serve as a catalyst for economic investment and further road improvements in southwest Lincoln. This again shows Lincoln is indeed on the move with infrastructure projects that will change the way that we're connected and how we do business for decades to come into the future. So this area is right on track to be an even more prominent gateway into our city. And I want to thank our Public Works Department and Mickey for the way they're getting the job done for us and for their work on this particular project. Anything to add?
I would add,
right.
just quickly, this really reflects the tone and tenor of the relationship that we have with NDOT, and it's a long-standing relationship of cooperation and collaboration. So we really want to extend our appreciation, not just to the fact that with their partnership with a local firm, Constructors, in getting the project opened early, a month early, but also advancing the project a year. As you know, this stretch of road was a big challenge for us during those historic pothole surges. This is the cure to potholes, reconstruction, mill and overlay, rehabilitation. So those investments are incredibly important for our citizens, but also for all of the state of Nebraska. So thank you to the state. We really appreciate that relationship and also the projects themselves. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Questions?
Okay, so it's going to be open now, everybody's happy, and how long is it going to be open?
Everyone is going to be happy. Do you want me to take
Go
the
ahead.
project schedule? So the elevated roundabout over the T intersection, actually we break ground in 2020, but prior to that, we'll be doing some utility relocations. There is a lot of discussion with the designers on whether or not we can keep some lanes open during that project. We are really trying to offset some things to make sure that we can accommodate traffic movements through the intersection. That's not a full promise, but we are really trying hard to accommodate flow through the intersection during construction. So we'll have more on that as the design develops. It will. Some are offset in the right-of-way, but some will require movements and construction, utility relocation in the intersection themselves. 2019, we'll have utility relocation, and then full construction will probably the winter to spring of 2020. So the winter of 2019 and the spring of 2020. We'll start to see really full reconstruction. Lonnie, do you think a year and a half of full reconstruction? I think the funding goes out to about 2022. So yeah, we'll anticipate having a year to 2 years of reconstruction. So we'll have more detail when the design is fully cooked on project schedule, and be working closely with the actual contractor who drives the schedule. No, still in design, right.
To the extent that one must choose, the administration is decidedly on the side of the pain of progress rather than the pain of regression. All right. Thank you all very much for coming down to cover it, on both items, and have a great day.
Thank you.